present. Happy birthday to Marvin Mims. But we're not here to talk about that today. On Mims's birthday, we're here to talk about the big move the Broncos made. And I don't know if you heard, their draft capital significantly different than when we did a draft pod last week. We're going to break it all down. What options are we looking at now? How does this trade compare to other big wide receiver trades that we've seen in the last couple of years? All that and more starting now. Draft Pod!
Let's go.
We're doing it. That's right. What a time to be alive this Thursday morning from the Xfinity studio. Imagine that, my friends. Lock in that intelligent Wi-Fi for 5+ years. Let's do it, boys. Let's do it. There's so much going on. Hank has only been grinding Jaylen Waddle.
Yes.
I almost said Jaylen Warren. Who is Jaylen Warren?
He's a running back for the Steelers.
Right.
Still,
Oh, right. Shout out Jaylen Warren. More importantly, shout out Marvin Mims on his birthday.
Happy birthday,
Happy
Marv.
birthday,
Right.
Marv.
Double shout out.
How old does Marv turn? Someone get
24.
that for me. Are you for real?
Wait.
Yeah, I know
There's
how
no
old.
way.
Yeah,
Bro,
Oh, yeah.
he turns 24
Yeah.
and his new deal time next year.
Yeah.
Marv's young. We got some young wide receivers on this squad.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. No, he is. They were all 23. It was Pat, Troy, Marvin, all 23. Now Marvin is 24, the oldest of the
Right,
group.
which lines up because you've been grinding that all 23 tape.
Right. Okay, I get it.
I've got jokes today. I've got jokes.
good.
I've got hoops gear. We'll be hooping it up in
Shooty hoops.
very, very shortly.
Right.
It's going to be exciting, but we're not here to talk about that.
Hell
we
no.
are not here to talk about that, nor are we here to talk about Marv's birthday. That is a
But it
fun
keeps
fact.
coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does. Well, I mean, it's a special birthday. We got to celebrate
Right.
it.
24. It's Champ Bailey year.
Yeah, his Champ Bailey year. Next year, you can rent a car, and then it's all downhill after that month.
Right.
So enjoy it while you can.
Yeah.
My favorite Marvin Mims story.
Okay. Okay.
Now that we're just
Sure,
lingering on
sure.
this.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, shoot.
from
Oof.
Texas, went to Oklahoma.
Yep.
Didn't
facts.
really have much experience with snow. So
Facts.
the first big snowstorm of the year, the Broncos owners always have somebody put like one of those scrapers into everybody's locker.
Hell yeah.
So that they can, drive and see what they're doing, all that stuff.
Yes,
And so
yes.
Marvin gets to his locker, sees it, and says, "What's this?" And he said, "It's how you scrape your windshield off so that you can see when you drive." He said, "What do we do with the road?"
That's a
Because
great.
you can't scrape the road off.
Like,
You just kind of have to drive on it.
What a natural comedian.
What a great
he is
question,
hilarious.
too.
That's
he is one of my
amazing.
favorite guys. So happy birthday, Marvin.
I love that. And we just added another speedy wide receiver.
Right.
Different pedigree than Marv. All due respect
Yeah.
on Marv's glorious day. But yes, Jaylen Waddle is here, the former 6th
Yes.
overall pick.
Somewhere
About
around-
damn time.
Yeah. It's that star wide receiver that has the trickle down effects to the rest of the room is here. Hank and I talked about it some yesterday. Hank's got VODs coming out, film rooms
Yeah.
coming out. We did a 90-minute special yesterday with the Broncos show. You're doing another show today.
Yep.
Presumably talking more Jaylen
I
Waddle.
would imagine it's all Jaylen Waddle.
Yeah,
I only have
yeah.
one new Jaylen Waddle thing today.
Oh.
And
well,
unfortunately,
teaser?
after all the
Okay.
after all the good things yesterday,
Yeah.
there was one concerning stat
Oh, boy.
that I don't love.
I'd rather not get into this. Okay. Lay it on me.
So RK and I talked a little bit yesterday. Does he look just like a half step less explosive than when like 2022?
Yeah.
And like there's like a couple of those mile per hour things where you look at it and you're like, huh, he hasn't quite hit that speed again. One of the next gen stats guys tweeted out top speeds on routes this year. So 2022 and 2023, Jaylen ran 20 miles per hour or more 20 times. In the past 2 years, it's only happened twice. So you do see like it's just one more of those. You're like, oh, there might just be a tick less juice that isn't great, but obviously it's still more than enough to be successful. We saw it last year.
I don't know what to make of that.
Yeah.
Do you have thoughts, Trey?
I mean, this happens all the time, right?
It does.
And sometimes it's just a momentary downswing. Sometimes it's a long-term trend happening in effect. I think it's why both in our college evals and our pro evals, it's important not just to analyze the past season.
Yep.
I mean, that is what dictates a player's current stock and standing and why someone like Waddle might even be available when he was.
Right.
But yeah, there's a greater sample size to be looked at. And is this a trend? Does
Past 2
speed
years
drop
now, all
off
of a sudden.
at 26, 27? Not typically.
Not typically.
Yeah.
But
So,
no.
and is there a serious injury to make you think that speed all of a sudden and his athleticism's at a different tier than it used to be? Not really with Waddle. So, but it is interesting.
Yep.
I mean, I get into this all the time. You know, sometimes it's players' weight, sometimes it's
Love weight.
what have you. It also like what kind of routes is he running? Like, is that
Still mostly deep stuff. I mean, maybe not mostly deep stuff, but
I don't know.
similar rates to previously.
From what I remember, his depth of route was significantly decreased last year and his first year.
That
like those
could
are
be,
two outliers.
And that might be like depth of target.
Yeah, is that
Because
a quarterback
it's-
set?
Yeah. So, but the post and go routes were at like 27%, and they've hovered around like 27, 30 for the past few years.
Do you have any
factor in.
thoughts, Jake? You're quite excited.
Oh, yeah.
This
We
is-
haven't got your
we haven't gotten
Waddle
any
thoughts.
Jake thoughts.
No, this is exactly what I've been asking for 2 years. An explosive, speedy, versatile playmaker who can line up anywhere on the field, who instantly makes the Broncos more dangerous on offense. I almost can't believe it's happened, and then we're here. I'm so excited, man. I'm waddling everywhere I go now. It's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, Waddle, I kind of think it's taken over 6'7" for me in my life. I was doing
I
a
didn't know
lot of
6'7",
this, but
really?
now I'm
I
just
had
doing
missed
a
that.
lot of this. Yeah,
Okay.
it's fun. Have fun with life. It's worth it. That's what the Broncos are doing. So what's it mean in draft terms? Let's dig into first and foremost, what tier of players have the Broncos traded their way out of by taking on Waddle for the 30th pick, their late third, and then moving up in the fourth. Then we'll get into trade compensation and all that. Last two big mocks to come out this week, Kuiper, Daniel Jeremiah, both had Keldrick Falk dropping to the Broncos.
Interesting.
Yeah. Which obviously is now dropping to the Dolphins pick.
Right.
Falk, that really intriguing, one of the few real 5-tech type prospects. Mikael Williams, Tavon Walker, the past couple Georgia beefed up long DNs
Yep.
are kind of the more natural comp. The more I've thought about it, he's maybe a little more like skinny DeForest Buckner. Yeah.
Yeah. That makes me less happy.
Compared to all three of those guys, he does have less of a power element. While he has the same length, he has less of the power element, down year. And then I'd say, the two Clemson D linemen, Peter Woods. Wow, that was almost disastrous. TJ Parker, who, again, we talked about TJ Parker probably doesn't make sense. Too light of an edge to really be a JFM replacement out of the mix. The tier of wide receivers, you're kind of missing out on that top tier anyways.
Probably.
So you're more Casey Concepcion, Chris Bell, that range, more so than the tippy top guys. And then, we were starting to project some intriguing DBs maybe dropping to them, Emmanuel McNeil Warren, who Hank was saying, maybe that's not their type. They like more boxy, shorter, length deficient DBs.
They love a length deficient
is what
DB.
they crave.
Man, if there's a Chris Abrams drain in this class, they're all over it.
Oh, Lord.
Because they have been all over just like all-American production, like ball skills. And it's like, oh, he's 5'9" and a half and 170 pounds. It's like, well, that means he's a steal. Give him in the 5th round.
And, maybe those linebackers, I see the homie Jose is in the chat, maybe missing out on those linebackers. again, it's a strong DB class. It's a deep linebacker class. You'll have options. And then, the reaching on RB2, tight end 2 probably off the table, which, hey,
Right.
fine by me.
Yeah.
Top guards, I guess. So that's kind of who you're missing out of. It was a draft that, like Keldrick Falk, like Peter Woods, guys who in some mocks might be going top 15, could be dropping all the way to the early 30s.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That's the kind of guys you're missing out on. So the first, you're really not losing much.
No.
Waddle's a massive upgrade.
Absolutely. When we had Fran on, when it was just you and I, he brought up something that I said just a couple weeks prior, and that's out of all the drafts to be picking 30th overall, I think this is a great one to do it. Because I think there's even fewer or less first-round grades than there would be usually, right? And you were just beautifully pointed it out exactly by position why picking at 30 was... I mean, we kind of had a wild card if we kept that selection, and now you got Jaylen Waddle because of it. Crazy.
Yeah, 100%. We've got a question from Aiden Bloom asking, why is Caleb Banks falling worth the 4th round pick? He's falling. I don't know that the 4th is where, but we can talk about him late 2nd. You never know. He's falling because yet another foot injury has surfaced. That's what kept him out all of last year, or at least all but 2 games last year. And it's what he was dealing with at the combine as well. And this recurring, lingering foot injury for a guy who's that big is a problem. And then Chef Tony making the joke, D'Angelo Pons is the perfect Broncos DB. Yes, from what we just described.
Bud Clark, maybe?
Yes, 100%. And we'll get into some of the more perfect DBs and the other sides of this trade. On the other side, because first I want to give a shout out to our friends at Sling TV. That's right. 'Tis the season. It's March, baby. Tourney's going on. What were you calling it, Jake? Shooty Hoops is here. 'Tis the time, and Sling TV has you covered with their day pass offer. That's right. You want to access the games? You can get in on a 1-day pass, a 3-day pass, a 7-day pass option, and they all start at $4.99. Well, starting as low at $4.99. Sling is celebrating the chaos that everyone loves about the tourney. They're making it more fun to root for your underdogs this year. That's right. If you purchase a day pass and then a 12 through 16 seed pulls off the upset, I'm in on every single dog, as you all know. Wow. So double win for me as a Sling user. Then your next day pass is just $1. In this economy, that's insane. Get signed up at sling.com/underdog. If an underdog wins, you win too. Live TV your way. Learn more at sling.com/underdog. No purchase required. To learn more and see the full rules, visit sling.com/underdog. And shout out to New Built Restoration and Construction. They're in on all our draft content, and they are in on your home repairs. They're licensed general contractors who can help with any project, big or small. That's right. Doesn't matter if you're drafting in the late 2nd or the early 1st. They've got you covered. They're available 24/7 and truly care about their customers, just like they care about DNVR and our real listeners. 600 plus reviews can verify that. They have repair services from fire damage, water damage, mold removal, repair services, commercial projects, you name it, they've got it. They're true DNVR fans and real homies, so they're invested in taking care of you. When that home emergency hits, New Built Restoration and Construction will be there at nubilt.com or 720-902-7472. Let them know DNVR sent you. We are back in the Xfinity studio. So that's what you're missing out as far as the first round. And as you were saying, first round wide receivers.
Best thing to draft.
Yeah.
If they work out.
Right. And also a lot of variance there.
Yep. I mean, shoot, even Laquan Treadwell's getting his, 6th, 7th contract.
I know.
He's somehow still in the league.
Oh, I thought you were done with that.
I thought you were waddling.
There you
you go.
Yeah, that's the new 6-7.
That's just whenever somebody says 1-7. That doesn't come up as much.
No.
Almost
No
never.
one's 1-7.
That'd be the Waddle.
Yeah. Yeah, 6-7 comes up a lot in sports because it's a height.
And they're like consecutive numbers also.
Yeah.
Nobody ever says 1-7.
Yeah. And then losing out on the late third, that other top 100 pick was a bit of where the rubber meets the road for me. Ideally, you don't give that up. Top 100 picks have always been a big focus of mine because the guys you draft in the first 3 rounds are the guys I project to be at some point in their rookie contract. It often happens in that 4th year to be a starter on your team. And obviously having one of your 22 starters covered is an important commodity.
Yeah.
What's interesting is the Broncos are then able to get the 11th pick in the 4th round looped in here. So losing that third hurts a little less when you're moving up in the 4th than giving up another 4th. And you did have that second 4th rounder, which was from, do you remember what transaction?
Bailey.
Right. And then the other thing about the third is that, so you're giving up the third this year, but the plan in free agency is we're going to get a comp pick this year. So you have to lose more free agents than you bring back.
Which
so you're
making a
essentially going
trade
to
is
get
a sneaky way to work around that.
Exactly. It's like, why aren't they signing anybody?
Yeah.
And it's like, what the answer is because then you get the 3rd round pick for JFM. Whereas if you were to sign, I think they'd have to sign 2 free agents. They just signed that backup safety from the Bengals.
It's officially official.
Wait, that's official?
Yes.
Okay.
After all the whatever yesterday.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's like if you sign 2 guys, then all of a sudden you're out the 3rd round pick. The guys you sign free agency, like, would you trade a 3rd round pick for Dallas Goedert?
No. That'd be crazy.
If somebody had wanted to do that last year, the Eagles would have ran to the bank for that one.
Yeah.
So that's why the plan kind of makes sense. So you're now moving that 3rd round pick in the trade for a Waddle, which
it's an important though, because then that's signing a Juwan Jennings or Rashid Shaheed.
Right.
Which Wan'Dale Robinson's making the kind of money that Waddle's making. So that's the other factor in this is the cap for if we don't want to say top tier, top 15 wide receiver is really nice.
Right. And that's where, like, when you do the total math of, like, there's always well, you weren't going to draft a guy as good as Jaylen Waddle in the 1st round anyway. It's like, well, they're true. But the math is actually you get 3 years of Jaylen Waddle versus 4 years of whoever you get at 30. And you're going to pay an extra $60 million for those 3 years versus the other 4. And so that's where the math all kind of balances itself out.
The cost of development.
Right.
Yep. And then to put it in draft terms, just moving up to like the 25th or 26th pick would have taken this kind of compensation.
Yeah.
When I added up all the picks we gave up and the Dolphins gave back, it's a little less valuable than the 25th pick, a little more valuable than the 26th pick. So we were talking about some scenarios where, I don't know, Caden Proctor's dropping.
Right.
You move up to get him. It would have cost you what it ultimately cost you to trade for Waddle.
Yep.
Omar Cooper Jr., someone we didn't bring up in segment 1, who's another guy you kind of lost out on being able to target. That's and he was starting to get mocked in the mid-20s. This is what it would have cost you to move up.
Yeah.
Which also makes it feel, it's funny how trading for a known commodity veteran player costs as much as just moving up 5 spots in the draft.
Yeah.
Like the NFL is the only sport where we maybe overvalue picks more so than the other sports, and thus picks cost more than known commodities. Now, part of that's the cost control.
And that's,
Which
that's
is
like
why, again, Waddle's a little more valuable than maybe similarly tiered wide receivers.
And big picture, like, eventually I think the NFL should tweak that a little bit.
Well,
Like the idea that it's just straight up like cheap labor right away versus paying so much later. I think there are just imbalances there that are weird. Especially like you look at the quarterback contracts where it's like, oh, those first 4 years, that's the window. It's like those things need to move a little bit. But that's a conversation for the offseason, not for right now.
That would be an amazing post-draft
exactly. Post-draft offseason.
combo. Oh, man.
It's a great point, but also it's like the NFL is one of the only leagues. I mean, not the only league, but it's easier for first-round picks to come in and contribute right away than a lot of other leagues.
True.
For sure.
You aren't
For
drafting
sure.
18-year-olds like
Yeah,
you are in a lot of others.
In hockey or 19-year-olds in basketball.
No
And
farm systems.
Yeah.
Before it was flipped the other way. Like
Yes.
before the
Right. The top picks were making
Right.
such top money that it was almost like, is that valuable? Or are you kind of
Exactly.
taking on more risk than the reward
and that's
is
where
potentially worth?
so then all the economists go through and like figure everything out.
Yeah.
And they found at the time, like toward the end of that window, that if you have the number 1 overall pick, number 1 might have been unique. Number 2 overall pick, you should trade that number 2 overall pick for a 3rd round pick, just straight up, because the expected value of a guy in the 3rd round versus the likely negative value you're getting out of the contract you're paying. It's all interesting. It's tough to work those things out, but I do think it's a little bit off right now, closer than maybe any other league. So we'll give them credit for that.
All this to say, many factors at play.
Sure.
Yes.
Fun to compare to other big first round wide receiver trades. You got this. You got the wheels churning for me on the breaking pod when the trade first went down.
Yep.
Recent ones to compare this to. Stefon Diggs. Remember when he was a Viking
Yeah.
and got traded to the Bills? It's Diggs and a 7th to the Bills for the number 22 pick. Right? So
Right.
those 8 spots make a huge difference
Really,
as we
3
just
spots versus
assessed.
the 25.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then a 5th and a 6th that year, 2020, and a 4th in 2021.
Yep.
So for Diggs, again, and Diggs' ceiling might have been closer to 15th best wide receiver, while I think that's more Waddle's mid-range. I think his ceiling is more top 8, top 6 wide receivers. So that gives you a comparison. Similar factor, you like Bills trying to capitalize on a window.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, what's different from the Waddle trade to most of these wide receiver trades is most of those wide receivers, as they're getting traded, they're expecting a shiny new contract from their new team,
True.
which is where Waddle being locked in for 3 more years
After the
and
Dolphins
being
have already
just
paid the signing
27th
bonus. Yep.
exactly is a huge factor.
Also, you have to factor in the fact that Waddle is like a good teammate and people like to be around him, and Stefon Diggs just got released again.
Right.
Or A.J. Brown's
Exactly.
reading books in frustration, or all the other wide receivers we were talking about. There was a...
Buyer beware.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no doubt.
And I think when we were talking about running backs a lot this offseason,
Yeah.
we kind of ran through like, has there ever been a running back who is now seen as like a top 5 or 10 back in the NFL who came to a new team and all of a sudden was that guy, whereas before they weren't? And the answer is just no. Like Christian McCaffrey was
I
also
think
Christian
Saquon
McCaffrey.
Barkley is.
But
But Saquon
before.
was also, at least he wasn't this
By
good.
the last 2 years with the Giants, I don't think he was in that tier.
Okay.
I think the tier
When he was
had
healthy, he
dropped
was.
off.
Right. And
Yeah,
then
but then at a certain point, it's like, are we projecting because he
Fair.
was a high pick, or had he ever shown this? And like what he did with the Eagles was a next level he had never even scraped the surface of in New York, to me.
as a rookie led the NFL in yards from scrimmage.
Fair.
So
fair.
there is,
Okay.
and so
That's
just
fair.
compared to like the
That's
ETN
fair.
Kenneth Walker,
That's fair.
there's
Oh,
like that gap.
excuse
But again,
me.
it did drop off.
H-Han.
H-Han, yes, sorry. Which
How disrespectful.
I wish we could
We
go
would
down that
never
route.
call you Frank.
No.
Well, unless we're purposely being disrespectful.
What
That
if-
is your I'm disrespecting you.
What
name.
if for the past 10 years you've known me, I always told you my name was Frank?
That'd be amazing.
Then now if I said it that you should not be calling me Frank, would it be a little tricky to make the adjustment?
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah,
It
just
would be.
Food for thought. But yeah, but it's interesting going back to Stefon Diggs, long way to say it.
I love you guys so much.
Thank you. So same age, played 5 years in Minnesota, had the upward trend, 720 yards and 903, 849, 1021, 1130. Similar production in kind of those peak years, similar-ish to Waddle. Maybe like the trend a little bit better, but then immediately leads the league in receiving the year he gets to Buffalo at 1535. So with the running backs where you say like, you're not going to make this huge leap where it's like, oh, Kenneth Walker actually one of the 3 best running backs in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
You wonder if Jaylen Waddle being at a dependent position could make that Stefon Diggs type of jump. I have a little bit of hope for that.
I love it.
And then, 15-35 that year, 12-25, 14-29. You forget just how good he was in that offense.
Yeah.
After, again, peaking at 11-30,
Yep.
Waddle could also level up
No doubt.
if Bo Nix is Josh Allen, which we found out in January that he is.
Breaking news, guys.
Breaking news,
There you
yes. Another comparable trade is the A.J. Brown trade, kind of wide receivers at similar stages of their career.
Right.
The Eagles trade the 18th pick turns into Treylon Burks.
Yikes.
Yikes.
Big yikes. And the 101st pick, late third. But again, then A.J. Brown had to be given a shiny new contract.
They won a Super Bowl.
They did win a Super Bowl. And I think everyone would say that trade was tremendous.
Absolutely.
The first rounder being the 18th, huge.
Yes.
Also, he had played 3 years with the Titans, so he still had 1 year on a rookie deal and then the 5th-year option. So if you're talking 18 versus 25, for all we love the Waddle deal, that's even ticked better. That's
Some
another
important
example: 1051, 1075, 869, like hovering in that good receiver, not great. Send him to Philly, 1496, 1456.
Yeah.
That jump does exist for receivers.
Right. Great point.
Yeah.
And that's when he now has to share, the workload with Devontae Smith and Jalen Hurts. You can talk, is he elite? Is he not elite?
Sharing the workload stuff is always interesting too.
Yeah.
Because I think Courtland Sutton's about to have the best season of his career because you're not similar to when
I think Ingram's a massive beneficiary of this trade as well.
When did Jaylen Waddle have the best season of his career? When they go get Tyreek Hill.
That's right.
The best version of Tyreek Hill they ever had.
Yep.
So there's pros and cons to having another guy.
Great point.
Hill traded for the 29th pick, the 50th pick, 2 fourths and 1 sixth.
Wow.
Older when that happened,
Yep.
but
And
kind of a different tier of where Waddle's at.
wanted
right?
a
Hall of Fame
contract
type tier.
immediately, though.
Yep, 100%. Though also more off-field headaches.
Yes,
Yeah.
100%.
And then shows up Miami.
250 top 50 picks is a lot, plus the 2 fourths.
And again, the longevity's interesting.
And was that a good trade in retrospect? Because you get 2 elite years out of Tyreek Hill.
From whose perspective?
For the
Dolphins?
Dolphins.
No.
Right? Like,
Because 2 isn't enough.
in retrospect, it was all a massive failure. You fired McDonald.
Yeah.
You've
Right,
you're
right.
rebuilding
Especially if you look
completely.
at all the big.
Tua didn't work out. It's not like A.J. Brown where you say, yeah, they gave up the 18th pick, but they got a Super Bowl. Well worth it.
Right. But also, 1,710 yards the first year. Leads the NFL 1799 the second year, and then nothing after. The production in those 2 years, you would say it should have been 3 firsts. It's just that you didn't get enough after that. So it's closer than I think we might be giving credit for.
When you go by the production, yes, but
The team just fell apart around him.
And in fairness, with those picks, the Chiefs are able to build what is a Super Bowl
Get back to the
winning
Super Bowl.
defense.
Yeah.
True. That was the year
one of
they-
those picks is
yeah.
McDuffie, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
Who then you were able to flip again.
Right. That was before they forgot how to draft.
Davante Adams, 22nd pick and 53rd pick.
that's crazy.
And the Raiders doing that is a completely different scenario. Like you're trying to capitalize on a window. Doesn't work out.
What window?
But again, doesn't work out 1,500 yards year one.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah,
How many wins, though?
they'll lose games any different way. They could have lost games with the rookies. They could,
Of course.
right.
Silly question. Sorry.
Let's not grade the Raiders on wins. Because all of a sudden it's just the conversation is F.
And then even Hollywood Brown, who has a good rookie season, but nothing much more. The Chiefs let go of him to the Cards for a first-round picks. That's the 23rd pick.
Other way around. Cards let him go to the Chiefs, right?
Is that right? No, I think it's the Chiefs who draft him and then trade him to
Baltimore
the Cards.
to Arizona
Oh,
to
Baltimore.
Kansas City.
My
Yeah.
bad.
There
My
we
bad.
go.
My bad. 23rd pick. Now, they also get a third in return. But even Marquise Brown getting the 23rd pick tells you,
Wow.
like the 30th pick is a
Right.
massive factor in this.
Yeah.
It's by far, 29th pick for Tyreek Hill, but then there was all that other compensation. All the other first rounders are quite a bit higher. And even if you want to think of it as all that the Broncos gave up adds up to the 26th pick, that also puts it in perspective.
Yep. It's also interesting with Brown. So you talk about like, oh, you take A.J. Brown from the Titans, put him in that Eagles offense. You take Stefon Diggs out of those Vikings offenses, put him in the Bills offense. Well, you kind of did the opposite with Hollywood Brown, where it's like the year before he had his big breakout, 1,000 yards, playing with Lamar Jackson. Where if you put A.J. Brown with Lamar Jackson, all of a sudden it's different. And so you take him away from that, send him to Kyler, and winds up misses some games, but the pace is just only slightly behind that. And that kind of falls off from there. Because I think that might have been Kyler's best year. Was that the year that got him paid? Right around there. So
Yeah.
it's one of the lessons might be if you're going to buy a receiver for first round pick, buy one from a bad team because there's some upside offensively.
Waddle trade qualifies?
Yeah. And with the bonus of we saw him with good Tua too, and it worked pretty well.
Yeah. Doing this exercise makes me feel better about the draft compensation.
I felt great when it first broke.
Yeah, no doubt.
I was ecstatic.
Which, coming from a draft guy, I think says a lot.
Yeah.
Because you're not
Right. He loves the draft.
you're not Zach Stevens. You know, you're not. You know,
Right.
all
Nobody.
due respect to a legend
Right.
and a brother, but
Yeah.
The values just, it was unbeatable, especially when you consider the 30th pick. They just weren't getting, even if you get Casey Concepcion, what's a great season for him as a rookie? 700, 800 yards?
If he had 700 yards, I'd be saying, oh, he's going to be a Pro Bowler someday.
yeah.
For sure. But
And
then,
that's like, but what's that worth in a championship?
Right.
window?
exactly.
And you have 700 yarders, young wide receivers.
Marvin,
Like,
plenty
Troy,
of them.
Pat, like
Yeah, right.
You're set on good prospects.
yeah, exactly.
I think
And
one of those
you've
three
been
is going to a
trading.
Pro Bowl at some point in his career.
You've been
If you give me all
trading
of
your
them.
fifth vet wide receiver for consecutive years, right? You pick up Josh Reynolds, then you trade him. Vele can't make the or is on the roster
Right.
bubble, so you trade him.
Tim Patrick.
Like it's
No,
why
they
the,
just cut Tim, didn't they?
the rumors of like Kendrick Bourne or who's the guy who went to the Vikings or was coming from
Jalen
the-
Naylor.
Yeah, it was like
Oh, Lord.
I feel like we've been down this
Right.
road before, and you don't really need that guy. You need the guy who upgrades everything and
Yeah.
creates the trickle
Kind
down
of
effect.
resets the depth chart in a way.
Yeah. And right. And just, now you got to double Waddle, and now you got to figure out who do you single Sutton with. And now you got to figure out how do you handle the Broncos being able to throw Ingram, Pat Bryant, Troy Franklin, Marvin Mims at you in the slot. The conundrums you are facing as an opposing defense are way different from just about any other move you could have made.
Yeah.
Right.
Short of another trade like this, like an A.J. Brown or what have you.
Sure, but when you factor in the age, the contract, the locker room impact, and the overall skill set, it's not even close though. Like I'd way rather have Jaylen Waddle than AJ Brown, and I love AJ Brown.
And he has that premium trait, that long speed. There's truly a handful of guys.
Oh, yeah.
You know, does Tyreek
Oh,
still have it? TBD. Rashid Shaheed, yes, but Rashid Shaheed doesn't have any of the nuance that you're getting. After that, who are the guys that like before you even line up, it's like, boy, you better have deep safety
like
help.
the only guys who I get scared of going into a game, because with the Broncos, you have Pat Surtain.
Right.
So Pat Surtain takes everything away, but sometimes there's just no answer for speed. So it's like the week that you play Tyreek Hill, you're just like, well, this totally changes everything. And that's if you have Pat Surtain. So to have one of those guys in Jaylen Waddle's massive. Also kind of fun with Jalen Naylor. Raiders gave him $35 million over 3 years compared to Broncos 68 for Waddle. Waddle has
Crazy.
3 seasons in his career with more receiving yards than Jalen Naylor has his entire career. It's ridiculous. He's never had a 500-yard season.
Yeah,
That's why you don't sign free agents.
the cap is crazy.
It's really crazy.
Free agency is scam.
2/3 of it guaranteed. It is. Free
It's
agencies
nuts
for
that
bad teams.
We talk about the draft's an inexact science. Signing free agents is an inexact science.
Right.
Well, and then I watched a video yesterday talking about how Christian Kirk basically just destroyed the entire wide receiver free agent market with that deal however long ago. Because Alec Pierce is getting, 26 per? Something like that. So
Yeah.
there's been a little correction from what was it? I think it was around that he got Christian Kirk, 4 or 5 years ago from the Jaguars, right?
Right.
So like, especially before now, where I feel like we are kind of corrected a bit. Like it was terrible before.
Totally.
No doubt.
Totally.
Okay.
No. Yeah.
Henry.
Never mind. It's not worth it.
Oh, all right.
I was just looking at the receivers. One of the things you talk about the draft is like the value you're getting. So like, why would you take a running back at number, let's just say 5 overall when he's going to automatically be the 8th highest paid player at his position in the NFL? Linebacker, very similar. Receiver, you take a guy at 5th overall. He's the 32nd highest paid receiver in the entire NFL. Only edge, he'd be 33rd. That's the only one where it's different, lower, because edges get paid so much. Even
Quarterback, right?
Quarterback's 20. It's less because there's only 16
crazy.
guys who are on those.
What is Waddle like as far as highest paid NFL wide receiver?
He's got to be like 25 or so.
I'd be interested to hear what
Crazy.
tackle is too, because
Yeah.
if that's
We might need this graphic for next week. That might be
Yeah,
the show.
no doubt.
Yeah.
well, it'd be interesting if tackle's up there because those are the 4 most important positions almost.
So if you go, right tackle 15th, left tackle 22nd,
That's amazing.
guard 13th. So you're not splitting them. Otherwise, you'd say
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
up even higher.
This just
Center 8th.
You have to draft these valuable guys in the first round. You
Premium
have to
positions.
pass
Yep.
catcher or passer, pass catcher, pass rusher, and then pass protector. You
Right.
have to get those guys in the first round.
Where's corner, Rick?
Okay.
That's a good one too.
This one, yeah. This is why
yeah.
I almost didn't open this can of worms.
We're gonna build the Broncos in just a second.
30th.
30. We figured out the draft.
We cracked it.
Congrats,
We
guys. We've
cracked
done
it.
it.
We cracked the code. Yeah, we need to do that next episode. I'd honestly love to revisit the Waddle Pat Surtain draft as well.
I was going through my notes.
Yeah, that'd be a fun one. I know I was going through my big board
haven't
for
got-
21.
I was looking for my notes from the trade deadline, and my notes from the draft popped up, and I didn't read through all of them because I was in a rush. But I also need to go do that.
Yeah, that'd be there's lots to unpack still.
Right.
If you guys were worried about the draft pod and what are they going to talk about,
Oh.
have no fear. We are though going to build the Broncos right now. We're building the Broncos with new built restoration and construction. When that home emergency hits, new built restoration and construction will be there at nubilt.com or 720-902-7472. Let them know DNVR sent you. So, fellas, now we've got our number 1 wide receiver. What do we do with this late 2nd round pick?
Whatever we want.
The lonesome pick remaining in the top 100 for the Broncos. Well, let's start with you, Hank. Are the offensive skill positions still on the board? I would assume wide receiver is now off. Though day 3, I'll definitely be looking at more kick returners. Because I do wonder if Marv,
Michael Wortham,
our birthday boy, maybe next year you have to make some tough decisions. Yeah.
Yeah, no, you do. Again,
But that's not a late 2nd. That's a
It's
day
true.
3 patch a hole.
if you're going to be making decisions in the future, though, sometimes the best move is to make those decisions in the present. And especially if you were to move Marvin before the season, you save $6 million in cap space, which you may or may not need this year, depending on what your plan is. But it does roll over to next year. There are values in doing that. And for that reason, I'm not sure it's off the board because I'm sure they've gotten all sorts of calls on Marvin ever since the Waddle deal. And so they'll have a good idea of what their guys are worth on the market. So if you wind up saying, wait, we thought we were looking at this guy at 30 and he's here at 62 because this is such a weird receiver class with so many guys going in different orders. Very, very unlikely, but you never know. Running back, still probably on there.
Yes.
It's
Feels
not
very on the
Yep.
board.
For sure.
yeah,
And
my
that
plan would be
feels like-
I want to vet at the trade deadline when they're going to be cheap, but
Yes.
that's
it also, even like
just my plan A.
let's monitor the cuts that happen around
Right.
camp and stuff. You know, like, is there an
Right.
upgrade on the day out there?
Right.
And day 3, definitely in the linebacker market. Pierre Lapine shouting out Eli Stowers, Pine was mocking him in the late first. Can you still get him in the late second? Gotta say, I'm not the biggest Stowers fan.
He's 52nd on the consensus board too.
And after the combine, I would think he's going closer to top 50 than he is the 60s. Problem with him is it doesn't show up on tape.
Right.
Yeah.
Like that dynamic athleticism, I don't really see.
Right.
Um,
And he's a classic, like some sucker team is going to fall for it. And it might work out for him, but you run like that in the combine, you do it like Raiders already have too many tight ends, so they're one of the teams that's like, yeah, they're going for that. The big shiny tight end.
Hopefully it's not the Broncos.
For what it's worth, you package 62 with 108. You get from 62 to 54. So it's not a huge jump.
Not great.
I think it's very much possible, but if you package 108 with 111, then you get up to 88. And so maybe instead of moving that second round pickup, you just jump back into the top
mid-third
100 on the back end. Also weird, last 2 picks in the draft, another 7th rounder a little bit before it. When you've got 10 picks like they had last week, it's a lot easier to say like, oh, cool, just a couple more camp bodies, you can bring them in. When those picks get narrower, you wonder if you use them to, you're probably not finding a meaningful player there. Is there a way to maneuver somehow, throw that in as bait? And do
Still
you
8 picks now, right?
mean,
If they had 10,
7.
they gave away 3. They got 1.
Maybe,
7.
That should be -2. Yeah.
you would think. Maybe did they only have 9?
Maybe they only had 9.
I didn't think
They
so.
have 7.
Remember
Wait.
last year?
This year, before the trade.
Oh,
But no, they do
before,
have
sorry.
7 now.
Yes.
If not Stowers, though, who knows? Maybe a Justin Jolie could drop. Maybe a Max Clare could drop. If for the receiving tight ends, Joe Royal, Tanner Kazoil, our Big 12 tight ends.
I'm a big Sam Roush guy.
Sam Roush, Nate Borkicker, the Texas A&M
I
tight
like
end.
him.
Yeah. We would have to learn his name, though.
Will Kekmarek. So the blocking tight ends are the names I can't pronounce.
Which,
The
I mean, that's
receiving,
what you want.
It's an easy to identify, right? The receiving tight ends are the ones I can't pronounce. So you'd still have some nice tight end options. Like the 30th pick was never the sweet spot. The 62nd pick, wait, is that right? Feels
62.
much more like the sweet spot for a tight end who could sit. Running back, I mean, look, I think Jonah Coleman would make a lot of sense in this offense. I think Jonah Coleman is very much the kind of running back that Sean Payton loves. Also, in retrospect, very smart to go after RJ Harvey last year. Last year was the year to get yourself a day 2 running back. This is not a great year for that. And as I was saying on one of these shows, it's a running back class that's so lacking in the top. I think you'll kind of be forced to overdraft someone in the top 100.
Oh, yeah.
So even Jonah Coleman, like, he's a nice fit. He checks off a lot of boxes. I've been high on him for several years. 62nd pick, when that's your only top 100 pick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could talk myself into it, but
There aren't a lot of running backs I'm into. I think
it's
that's
that
just
kind
where
of
I'm
class.
at. Yeah.
Especially the ones I'd be into are more the Emmett Johnson,
Right.
Demon Claiborne, the guys who kind of do what you already have
Right.
They don't
in
do
an
much for
RJ,
me.
you know?
Yeah. I want to get into Emmett Johnson. I just can't. Like, it's just this small.
He has a lot of like advanced stats that don't go in his favor. A lot of
Really?
like offensive line creating yardage for him type of stuff.
Okay.
They force fed the ball to him like crazy.
Yeah.
Jadorian Price, by the way, combine measured in at 202. So we were thinking of him as a 215-pound back at just 202 pounds. That does change my thinking for him. Just going back to the 30th pick just wouldn't have been my preferred spot for him. Defensive line, 62. You're looking at Christian Miller from Georgia, who'd be a nice 5 tech.
Right.
If you like Caleb Banks, may I interest you in Darrell Jackson Jr. from Florida State? You know who's a fun one, who we haven't talked about much at all? Danny Dennis Sutton. the big edge rusher from Penn State. Down year, listed at 268 at Penn State, 6'6", measures in a little lighter at the combine in the mid 250s. But I think on that 6'6" frame with 33-inch arms, we could add some weight to get him to more JFM type measurements.
2028 is when you're saying, like, what if he could be a monster? It just might take a bit.
That's the thing. Like, if you are still prioritizing that D-line, that would be a guy I'd be very intrigued by. And I think the 62nd pick might be right around where his value lines up.
What about Dominique Orange out of Iowa State?
Big nose tackle.
Yeah.
Can you do... That's where Ennie's from, right? Iowa State?
Yes.
Can you do yet another
He's
big nose tackle from Iowa State, or do you already have that in Ennie?
I think Dominique Orange is a more classic like nose though, as opposed to Innie, at least coming out.
Yeah, I mean, and he
he's
has like the
developable.
length. It's the quick feet that kind of get you going. Has the size, but yeah, it's interesting.
It's a great nose tackle draft.
It is.
I'm just not sure.
Yeah.
Do we need nose tackles?
Especially at 62, because you paid DJ Jones.
Yeah.
We don't, because everyone talks about the JFM replacement, right? And that's just like almost impossible to find that exact archetype at this point, though.
Yeah.
Just taking a good defensive lineman, I think, is still something that's
It's tough to imagine you'd regret it.
exactly.
It's just at pick 62 when you have, especially for a team that doesn't really
Yeah,
run
and
a
if-
nose tackle in like a true, like there's so much one gapping.
Right.
You're trying to be so explosive. Is the value there? I mean, you'd love it on your goal line situations and you're stopping QB sneaks. And then there's other things that he could do, obviously. But I don't know. It's an interesting value pick that I think I would like more if you were also taking a guy in the first round and also taking another guy in the third round.
Yep.
What about Derek Moore?
Derek Moore from Michigan. Another guy weighed a little lighter at the combine than I expected.
Yeah.
But him, Gabe Akis from Illinois, Danny Dennis Sutton, who we just mentioned. Akeem Mesidor is another guy in this camp who it's like the bigger edges. I could talk myself into it for sure. And edge is a position of value in this draft.
There's no roster space.
Yep. And then, I mean, what are the implications for like a Savion Jones or a Q Robinson if you went in that direction? The other dreams at 62 are because of injury, because of age, because of the down year. Can you get a Will Johnson type drop from anyone?
Right.
Will
Maybe,
Johnson, star cornerback at Michigan, dealt with injuries his final year, drops all the way to the mid-second to the
Crazy.
Cardinals last year.
What about Chris Bell?
Chris Bell would be one of those.
He
The
would.
LSU
You give him
220
the whole year.
Louisville 220-pound wide. It's just, do we get more wide receivers?
Because you have 5. And as of now,
You don't need him this year, though. And
that's
he-
the thing. Oh,
He'd
when
be
is he back?
Well, it was a late ACL tear. That
Late
he had. It was
ACL.
like
Okay.
late October, early November.
You would give him a full redshirt year. Because so you have your 5 guys and you're not taking a jersey away from Pat Bryant.
right?
So if you draft a guy, he's not active on game days, unless he provides such insane special teams value that you just have to say like, we're going really short somewhere else.
Yeah, that's the thing. It
Right.
feels like a luxury pick with now the amount of picks you have.
Would it be though if he's talking about Mims potentially being dealed? And
I mean, you'd almost have to do something like that.
which I think is a way to kind of recoup some value too.
Well, that's where like early 4th, Bryce Lance is staring me in the
I mean,
face.
absolutely.
Or
And then
a Ted Hurst, one of these
how do you get him on the
smaller
field?
school wide receivers. I know, and
just redshirt year.
essentially,
Or
Deion Burks would be the perfect Marvin Mims.
that's same
I mean,
school, but
he's-
like
yeah.
same type of player too.
Same type of player.
Yeah.
The little Oklahoma Marvin Mims kind of
Yeah.
clone. Maybe a little more quickness, a little less long speed than Marvin. I also don't know
yes.
if Burks was returning kicks.
4.340,
that up
4.3
right now.
flat.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
He returned kicks his second year at Purdue, was pretty good at it. That's all the data we have.
Okay.
Though.
Wide receiver's an interesting one, and I'm glad we got into that. It's a great draft for linebacker, safety, even corner depth.
Safety, I think, is a good one too.
Yeah.
AJ Halsey's around that range.
Yes.
Kamari Ramsey's around that range.
Yep.
I don't know
Sign
how you
me
feel
up.
about Genesis Smith, the Arizona safety, at all.
People like him. Jalen Kilgore's another guy I'd put in that mix. It's a deep safety class. The other like injury guys, could Jermod McCoy drop all the way to the late second?
That would
Doubt
be
it.
crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I was already hoping he would drop to 30. That seems. Caleb Banks was
D'Angelo
brought up in the
Pons 'cause of
chat.
size.
I think he
I
could
doubt
be
it.
in range.
Okay.
I think that,
I mean, he's exactly what they look for.
but
Gosh,
he's
just-
also, I think there's going to be enough teams that go, he's too small just immediately. You
Yeah.
just don't even have him on the board.
Keontae Scott, less undersized
I
than
almost said his name.
D'Angelo Pons, but he's that class. He can play safety, he can play nickel.
Oh,
He is
yeah.
more like 5'11", 6 foot, 200
Mhm,
pounds, so not as small as Pons.
But an animal on the field.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you needed yet another nickel, you could go that range, right?
Right.
Where more, maybe
need
it's
another
more a
nickel.
deep safety
Yeah.
is what you're looking
there's got to
for,
be another
but-
move coming in that department too, right? With the Brandon Jones expiring coming up, right?
I mean, Hank, what are your thoughts?
Safeties just aren't expensive, and I think that's why you re-sign him. And I think I would get it done before the season.
All right.
If in a world where you can go get Emmanuel McNeil Warren or something, like then all of a sudden the thinking might change. But it's just so easy. I mean, what's he going to cost? Like $14 million a year, and you are going to have to make tough decisions next year. 'Cause again, you're sitting on $4 million in effective cap space going into next season, and you don't have Brandon Jones, you don't have Ben Powers, you don't have Riley, you don't have J-Mag. So as much as everybody hated the run it back strategy, you don't get to run it back next year. So you have to make those cuts. I just think that he's going to be cheap enough that you just do it. But I could be wrong.
I think there's some interesting offensive line potential at this spot
that
too.
would be a fascinating one as well.
A bit higher than 64 on the consensus board. We start with Jennings Dunker out of Iowa.
Yeah.
You got the Northwestern kid, Caleb Tiernan, in that range.
Yep.
Also the guard from Georgia Tech, Keelan Rutledge, in that range.
These are all quality football players.
Yes.
And free agency has taught me trench guys, they're valuable, they cost a lot.
Yep.
It's why, even though it's maybe not the sexiest,
Mm-hmm.
that might be a smart way to go about it.
Absolutely. It would.
If you told me that you were going to be able to use pick 62 to get somebody as effective as Ben Powers for 2027, I'm all in. But you have to be confident that that's the case. And I'd love to have some upside there as well. But I just get scared off that it feels like the interior linemen, the guards in particular, there's always like a cluster end of the first, beginning of the second.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time you get to the late second, you're no longer dealing with like, this guy's just going to be good. This guy's just going to be good. Maybe I'm misremembering,
No,
but,
I think you're more accurate than not there for sure.
but if they find
Mhm.
somebody they like, Fabichi Nwaiwu from Oklahoma is a guy I like. I'm curious what they could do there.
Yeah,
Someone,
that's a good one to throw out.
Someone in the chat brought up linebacker. I think that's definitely in play too. I mean, Jacob Rodriguez was my guy. I think that you were looking at him potentially maybe a trade back from 30 or something though in that range, right? I don't know if he's exactly in the range anymore. He'd be an amazing fit, I think. But Jake Galladay's at 50 on the consensus board. You got Josiah Trotter, Kyle Lewis, who I've seen some stuff out of Pitt.
Kyle Lewis. And maybe, I'd get greedy, try to get him in that early fourth. But Kyle Lewis, the former safety at Pitt, would be amazing and give you something in that linebacker room that you don't totally have right now,
Even then,
which is someone who's a coverage savant.
in the hundreds here, you got Deontay Lawson, Jay Sean Barham, Harold Perkins.
Yeah.
There's options.
Yeah.
I don't want, I need a run stuffer. Because again, like you're a linebacker. And
Jake Galladay, Jacob Rodriguez would be
220
nice.
is just scary.
Justin Jefferson from Bama might be an interesting one in that range. It is an interesting linebacker class where I think the tippy top guys, Anthony Hill, Rodriguez, Galladay, obviously Sonny Styles will be long gone. Even CJ Allen would have been like, the value would have lined up at 30. 62, I'm kind of projecting all those guys to be gone.
Yes.
And then that next tier, the Jeffersons, the Bryce Botchers, the Kyle Lewis, the Josiah Trotters,
Feels a little
Deontay
rich.
Lawson, maybe too rich for 62.
Yeah.
So linebacker, I think it's you take advantage of that depth and you wait for one of those two early fourths. And that's where running back's the real conundrum. Because the depth is bad at the top, the depth is bad at the bottom.
Which might be why they re-signed all their running backs.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No doubt.
Yeah.
And why I'd be on the lookout for veterans that come available.
Yep.
A la, that's Bidet.
Or maybe there's another trade out there like what you did to get rid of Estime.
Right.
You could pick someone up who's maybe on the bubble on the way out in camp, like you said,
right.
and as a younger player.
Get
possible.
yourself an Estime out there. Yeah. Because, we'll have to get into more of these running backs and guys we like later on. It is true that the wide receivers, at some point, it does feel like
There's value there.
take a swing. There's value there. It's going to
It is
line
just-
up at some point for you.
There could always be an injury too. Because the plan, if you draft a receiver, has to be just hard redshirt year. Like you're just not on the field. But if somebody gets hurt, then might provide more value than Lil Jordan. That'd be the only competition if somebody gets hurt.
Look at what happened in the playoffs.
Right.
Troy can't go.
Right.
Pat Bryant's constantly getting hurt. Like all of a sudden
Right.
we're down to guys
true.
we just signed playing a very significant snaps in the AFC title game.
And
Yeah.
what killed them is that they got hurt during the game too.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you didn't even get to like bring enough guys,
Right.
like give enough guys uniforms that you
Yep.
could be functional during the game.
Yep.
Which,
You do have Lil Jordan as that break glass in case of emergency.
right. He's your number
Could
6.
draft a guy though.
A.T. Perry still with us?
He's still alive. Yes.
I don't. Instead of I don't know, I'll change my
Sweet.
answer to it doesn't matter.
Hell yeah, that's what I'm talking about. It doesn't matter.
That was
Steelers
us
now.
building the
Steelers.
Broncos. To wrap it all up, it sounds like tight end might be where we feel
I know.
there's some good value at 62.
I'm a Sam
We'll see.
Roush believer. That's the one guy in this entire draft.
Eli Reardon
Especially
from Notre
now.
Dame, another one worth mentioning.
Interesting. I don't
Dealt
know
with
him.
some injuries, so the speed athleticism isn't great. Really nice blocker, though, and like gets open underneath. And if, he had a little more time post-injury to recover, maybe. Oscar Delp, a guy who rumors of his pro day were going crazy.
We had a super chat, I think, about Oscar Delp. Someone asked about him.
Oh, great transition. Let's get into those super chats. Start with the Delp one. Yeah. UGA Bronco, thank you for the super chat asking, how do you feel about targeting Oscar Delp in, say, the 4th? He's an athletic tight end that can block. Didn't put up great numbers only because of Mike Bobo's play calling. I also really love Katron Allen. I'm also a Katron Allen fan.
We're a Katron Allen pod.
You want to talk Oscar Delp?
Oscar Delp, I mean, you look at him and it's like, this guy looks like Brock Bowers.
Oh, and we're on overtime. So go on the website, thednvr.com, to continue this conversation if you're watching us.
But as
on a
you
smart
mentioned,
TV.
only had his career high at Georgia was 284 receiving yards with 24 receptions. So there's definitely room to grow there, obviously. But you look at him, he looks like your prototypical tight end, and he played quite a bit. And as Super Chat said, he was out there moving guys. So
I think it's back-to-back draft cycles when we were doing our preseason rankings, he's been a top 5 tight end for me coming into the season, and then it's never really happened for him at Georgia. The athleticism's intriguing. The fact that he can also block and has pretty good size, also intriguing. It's just like, I don't know, man. Some of these guys, it's like, I can only dream on you for so long, and if it doesn't happen, I got to kind of move on.
what
So
about Joe Royer?
Joe Royer, I'd be all in. Cincy tight end. I also wonder if Delp wasn't from Georgia, would we be as excited about him?
It's a good point.
Yeah.
You know, like if he didn't have that Georgia stank on him. And Katron Allen's great. It's just, I think 62 might be too rich because he lacks dynamicism.
Right.
So he does do a good job on like dump off passes. But it's the long speed, like ability to break speed that he likes. I don't know that you have the pick that's the right range for Katron. Pure Lapine, a true OG, saying, I have mocked it 100 times. Stowers is ours. We'll see, man. We'll see, Pure Lapine, because we're not as high on him. Fran's not as high on him. The Combine has elevated his stock to where he's maybe going to be overdrafted. My spidey senses tingle with him, and he feels a little too Noah Fant-esque.
Yeah. Most receiving yards of any tight end in the country this year.
Yep.
So give him credit for that.
100%.
Biggest games, Texas and Auburn. You love that. Next biggest, Charleston Southern. So
Nice.
It is what it is.
Big.
But yeah, I mean, there's the production in the SEC counts for something.
Yeah, and pretty savvy in getting open underneath and on the short stuff. It's just like you ran
Is
a
that
4.52.
premium? Yeah.
You broke the record for the vertical jump at
Right.
45.5 inches.
Why did I think you were just
Why am I not
Yeah.
seeing that?
Right.
And part of that might be that Diego Pavia sucks.
that might be.
He was horrible, man. He couldn't pass.
Right.
He couldn't complete. I mean, he was just
Right.
awful as a
5'8", bro.
passer. Yeah.
He is 5'8".
So in an offense where you're asking him more to be that deep threat, to be more of that dynamic wide receiver, maybe he could do something for
Right.
you. So
But you have Ingram on the roster.
I
Right.
know, but
He holds that roster spot.
Stowers looks like old Ingram. You know?
Yeah.
Like at least Stowers, I could believe, could still do the more dynamic
Is Evan
stuff.
Ingram a winning football player, though?
What did Ole Miss do back in the day? I don't remember much.
I think he was on pretty good Ole Miss
Okay.
teams. Yeah.
Let's see.
I feel like that Jags team where he had his best year with Dougie P, that they were a winning team. I feel like they won the South and made the playoffs.
Okay.
I think that happened.
Um,
Toyota chat, correct me. Okay,
they
Sam
had,
Roush, 10th in receiving yards among tight ends.
correct.
That's pretty good.
They had some good years, 2014, 2015, 9-4 in 14, 10-3 in 15. Put up a lot of points per game. This conference record doesn't suggest that they did anything, I guess, to go to the SEC title game or more.
Michael Trigg, another Big 12 tight end who has
Oh,
a receiving
he's-
tight end would be fun. He is purely a receiver, though.
Yeah, but he's got sick hands.
I mean, ginormous hands. Actual bear claws.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it for us. Hank's doing more Broncos content for you guys in just 25 minutes.
Yep.
We're streaming stuff for the Hoops tourney here in a second
Oh, that already started, didn't it?
from the Xfinity studio. We are out. Later. God bless Bo Nix.
We all silly like the mayor.